Hi, everyone. This is a very, very exciting time in your lives. I know many of you, sorry about that, have already done interviews, and a lot of you have already gotten jobs. Things keep happening sooner and sooner. So this may be a little bit late for some of you, but if not, I'm going to talk with you a little bit today about the job search. I have some notes here. This is also in your module materials. So just things to think about as you are going out and finishing up things with your resume, cover letter, putting together portfolios if you decide to do that, doing interviews, etc. You also have opportunities in your discussion for this week to share information with one another. For those of you who have already gone through this process, any tips or tricks that you have or things that you want to share with your classmates, that would be great too. So things to keep in mind as you begin this process, especially when you're thinking about interviews. For a while we were doing online interviews, which you may still have had phone or Zoom interviews, but chances are these days you also probably had an in-person interview or will. So make sure that you are dressed professionally, you arrive early, you're prepared, you have thought through questions that you might be asked, all of those different types of things. And most importantly, that you have practiced, you've thought ahead about responses, and that you are as calm and relaxed as you can be. I know that it's a kind of nerve-wracking time, but show that you're confident, keep your answers concise. All of those types of things will help as you are navigating this process. So in the module for this week, there are a whole bunch of different websites that I've given you to check out and look at, to think about different things like making sure that you find the right job for you, where to go to seek support for writing your resume and cover letter at ISU. So there's lots and lots of different websites. I'm going to look at a couple of them here with you. This is going to be a pretty short recording. I know you all have a lot of stuff going on and you can look at these things on your own. So this has come up several times in discussion posts and also, I guess technically more so in reflections when people are asking questions about finding the right job or that seems like the best fit for you. So the great news for all of you is that there are a lot of jobs out there right now in early childhood education. So you can be a little bit picky about the job that you take. There are things that you want to take into consideration when you're thinking about your jobs that you might want. I'm going to go over here to the job bank. So this is where most of our ISU student teachers will go to find information about jobs that they might be interested in. So if you're looking for a job, you'll go here. You'll put in the type of classroom teacher you're looking at, or looking for, or classroom, excuse me, you're looking for the school, where it is, so on. So you can really narrow down a lot in this place by looking at specific locations. So you can look here, you can look by county, by region, you can look by grade level. So if you want to click on early childhood and you want only instructional and you want to look only in, I live in Champaign County, you can see the jobs that are available right now for early childhood teachers in Champaign County. All right. Another thing to keep in mind is that you can also look specifically at district websites. So most schools post on this job bank or through AppleTrack, which is how you often have to put in your information to apply for jobs, but not all do. So if you don't see a district here that you know has an opening, I would go to that district directly, their website, and look for employment opportunities, and often you'll find those there. So of course, it's not rocket science that you're more likely to get a job in a district where you know that there are openings, right? So if there aren't any openings, it doesn't hurt to go ahead and put in your resume and cover letter in case something were to open up, but you're much more likely to get a job in a district where you know that there are jobs available. All right, so that's one step. So another thing is thinking about your resumes and cover letters. So a lot of times, I know when I was applying for jobs a million years ago, I didn't get a lot of support or direction, especially related to cover letters. And cover letters are often the very first thing that districts will see or the administrators will see when they are looking at your materials. So you really want to think about cover letters that are sort of honed in on that specific job that you're applying for, all right? So they shouldn't be overly long or complicated. They should be, as it says here, short and sweet. You want to be talking about why you are the perfect person for this job, so why you feel like you're a great match. And again, individualize. When I wrote cover letters back in the 1990s, probably before a lot of you were born, I wrote the same cover letter for every job that I applied for because I didn't know any better. Now I know that you really need to be thinking about the specific job you're applying for. Talk about things that are in the job posting that they've noted that they want as criteria for that job, or different experiences that you may have had that align with what's in the job posting. You want to include those things in your cover letter and in your resume. So again, thinking about your resume, you want it to be catchy, you want it to be easy to read. Focus on the things that you've done. Some people will tell you not to put in anything that isn't considered job experience. Like some people will say, don't put in your clinical experience. I disagree. I think that any experience that you have working directly with children, whether it's volunteering, whether it's through clinical experiences, working at summer camps, whatever it might be, you should include on your resume. Where I think it's okay not to include things is, if you worked part-time over the summer waiting tables at Applebee's, I don't think you really need to include that. If, however, you worked every summer waiting tables at Applebee's for 6 summers and you got moved into more of a higher level position at a restaurant that you might have been working at, that shows that you have longevity, that you've made relationships, that you have established connections, and that you're reliable and dependable. So that you might want to include on your resume. So thinking about those things are important as you're putting together those different things that are going to be the first things that people see in districts where you are applying for jobs. Okay, let me move this out of the way. All right. So probably, well, not probably, by far and away, the most stressful part of the job search is the interview. So there are some websites that I've included with information about things to expect if you are asked to do a phone interview, things that you may want to take into consideration. I think it's a great idea to go through. So if you think about your interviews as, having different parts or pieces that they're probably going to ask you about, these topics here are very, very common. You're going to get asked why you're interested in this position. That's just going to be the first thing that they ask. They're going to ask you to share a little bit of information about yourself. That really means a little bit of information, not your entire life story. You're going to be nervous, so practice what you're going to say ahead of time because that will help you from oversharing and getting too windy in your responses. When you are asked about something like your classroom management techniques or strategies that you use, or a time when you've worked with students who had behavior issues, You want to give specific examples. You want to talk about, of course, keeping things confidential, what you did to address the issue, some of the challenges that you were able to address through a variety of ways, and connecting that to something that you might do in the future in your own classroom. So that's a good rule of thumb with any answer that you have. Give a brief restatement of the question, how you address the question directly, tie it to experiences that you've had, and then think about how that relates to what you might do similarly in the future. So here's some things, other things to keep in mind. I don't know. I don't know necessarily that it makes sense to send a picture with your resume. However, a lot of people will create a website, and that kind of overlaps when we start talking about portfolios. Let me think about, where is this at? Yeah, if you want to create either a digital portfolio or an actual portfolio, I think it's a good idea to create a website that has videos of you teaching. Of course, always thinking about not showing students' faces, making sure if you do include videos that include anything related to the student that you have appropriate permission, etc. But it can really give people an idea of what you're capable of. And that can, of course, be both good and bad. You want to make sure that you're including things that are really, really good, that show what you can do. And, you know, you don't want it to be too much. You want it to share just enough that they get an idea of what you're capable of, but not so much that they're kind of bored and kind of like, this is too much. I don't know if we're really interested. All right. So again, there's lots and lots of resources. I also have included some sample interview questions from an administrator who is local. The questions that she typically asks when she is doing interviews. Sometimes they'll ask specific questions about the curriculum that they use. You may have never heard of that curriculum before. It's okay in your interview to say, I'm not familiar with the ABCD literacy curriculum that you use. What I am familiar with is the XYZ curriculum that we used in my student teaching experience. This is what I did with that curriculum. So you want to always speak to your experience. Don't make stuff up. It never works. They will know if you're making stuff up. It's fine to say, I'm not that familiar with that, but this is what I do have experience with. So those are things to keep in mind as you are thinking about responding to questions in your interview. So I have lots and lots of things here, things to consider before you accept a job. This comes up a lot too in your reflections. Many times in teaching, there's not a lot of room for negotiating in terms of salary and things like that, unfortunately. Typically, the salary for a starting teacher just sort of is what it is in that district. You can ask if there's any room for negotiation, or you can say things like, I've been offered a position at another district making X amount of money. Actually, make sure that that's true. Don't make it up. You know, is there any way that you can come close to that? And they'll be honest with you and saying, yes, we can, or no, we can't. So think about those types of things when you are accepting positions. And most importantly, just trust your gut. If it doesn't feel like it's a good fit for you, if you don't get a good feeling when you go into the interview, of course you're going to be nervous, but if you've done more than one interview, you'll know that there's a difference in the way that people respond, how warm people feel, how you just feel overall after the interview, after communicating with the different people. If you are at the school, how you're greeted when you go into the office. All of those things are things to just keep in mind as you are considering whether that position or that particular school feels like a good fit for you moving forward. So again, thinking about the things that are important to you, prioritizing those things, geography, where you want to teach, the grade level, the type of school building that you're in. Some of you may want to teach in a private school versus a public school. Some of you may be dead set that you want to teach in kindergarten and only kindergarten. Some of you may say, I only want to teach in my home district. Whatever that might be, think about those non-negotiables first, and then that will really help you when you're narrowing your job search. So I wish you all the best of luck. Always feel free to reach out with questions. Share with each other with your discussions. If you have samples, or if you are willing to share your cover letter, resume, interview tips, any of those types of things in your discussions, that would be awesome. And I look forward to reading your discussion posts.